and welcome to the Box. Happy New Year, everyone. 2026. My message stands. Please try not to suck. Anyway, Sabretooth. Let us start with the things that do not change on Sabretooth. It's yellow and is at the very least meant to be armed with a spinner of some persuasion. I'm getting this out of the way early because Sabretooth took on many forms during its time on Robot Wars. The first of these being what looked to be a steam train, or a steam locomotive, not the full train, without the funnels, with a roll cage and tiger stripes, of course. Sabretooth Tigers. Though Sabretooth the robot was in fact named after the X-Men villain. It was also armed with two tiny vertical spinning bars, and had a lot in it from a Honda Melody scooter. The original Sabretooth made its debut in Series 5 of Robot Wars, landing in Heat G, where it faced an MDF robot in the form of a tank, named Evolution, and it could thwack with the little turret. Sabretooth approached the Evolution tentatively before hitting Evolution on the side. Evolution gave Sabretooth a shove, which, whilst it hurt Evolution, also caused Sabretooth's tiny spinners to stop spinning. Evolution then pushed Sabretooth into a wall, and Sabretooth escaped and pushed back. A few attempts at pushing wall followed before the two were separated by Secilled. Sergeant Bash also went after Evolution for no reason. So the ref bot yellow carded Evolution. Secilled then went after Evolution for no reason, and got yellow carded by the ref bot as time ran out and the judges were called in. Sabretooth stayed well clear of misbehaving house robots. The judges ruled in favour of Evolution. Sabretooth returned for Series 6 as a slightly wedgy bot, kind of half wedge, half tube. Still with the tiger stripes, and intended to have a vertical cutting disc, but during qualifying it broke, and a large tyre was put where the disc would have been. Basically, the axle holding the disc broke, and they didn't have a spare axle, and re-welded the axle, but it could not take the power of the disc, so wheel. Sabretooth landed in Heat I and drew Flipper Spinner Reptiron II, Axebot Lifter Spinner A-Kill. How many weapons do you need, A-Kill? And Axebot Terahertz. Sabretooth was out of focus early on until it showed up, having driven dangerously close to Growler. Sabretooth escaped uninjured, but Terahertz caught Sabretooth soon afterwards and axed it. Until Terahertz left Sabretooth to annoy Reptiron II. Because Sabretooth was toast, was counted out, flew Airfloor Flipper and pitted. Sabretooth was intended to return in Series 7 as a slightly boxy robot with a little scoop, a scorpion tail-esque self-righter, and a 9,000 RPM angled horizontal flywheel. Now this was the problem for Sabretooth. It was actually too powerful for Series 7. And Sabretooth's team were asked to tone the weapon down. They tried. They couldn't. So they withdrew. That's not the end of the road for Sabretooth though, as when Robot Wars returned for Series 8 in 2016, 12 years after Series 7 aired, Sabretooth did as well. In fact, one of the trailers for Series 8 features Sabretooth quite heavily. This time is a bit of a semi-compact box armed with a scoop, a drum spinner and an overhead claw that doubled as a self-righter. Landing in Heat D, Sabretooth drew Ramalifter Storm 2, Horizontal Spinner Terror Turtle, and Flipper Eruption, the latter of which was a problem as Sabretooth's self-writer wasn't actually working. Everyone. This could end badly. So, naturally, Sabretooth went after Eruption early on, trying and succeeding to land some blows on the Flipper. Points for courage right there. Eruption then tossed Sabretooth, which, fortunately for Sabretooth, landed on its wheels. That scare didn't keep Sabretooth away from Eruption, and whilst Sabretooth did land another blow, Eruption's next flip got Sabretooth upside down and, well, you remember? Broken self-writer? It was out. That's enough to make anyone seek help from a higher power, and indeed, prayers for Sabretooth's team captain, Gabe Stroud, were sought for us. Sabretooth entered Series 9 as an invertible-ish box with a scoop not unlike the one on the Series 8 version attached to the top. Continuity. And of course, well, it's the one that appeared in Series 8, so Series 8 Sabretooth scoop type on the top of Series 9 Sabretooth. Of course, unfriendly drum spinner. Sabretooth landed in Heat A where it drew Dutch Axebot Tomahawk and two vertical spinners in Cranky and Aftershock. Sabretooth was the last robot to enter the fray, wanting to stay well clear of Aftershock's disc, so once Tomahawk got away from Aftershock and Cranky, it became Sabretooth's target. Sabretooth got some good attacks in, chewing up some Tomahawk's armour and pushing the Dutch bot around the arena. Aftershock opened the pit as Sabretooth attacked Tomahawk some more, sending a little wedgelet flying. When Sabretooth left Tomahawk near Shunt, Tomahawk was toast, as was Cranky. Aftershock had done it in a while earlier. Shunt then turned Sabretooth over, Sabretooth having, for some reason, got too close to Shunt, before cease was called and Sabretooth's team asked the important question: had Sabretooth actually won a fight? The answer? Yes, Sabretooth had won a fight for the very first time, and was now in the group stages where it first faced Terahertz. Must be vengeance o'clock. Terahertz landed an axe blow before pushing Sabretooth into a corner, where Sabretooth was able to trade blows with Terahertz before turning around and taking out the tail at the rear end of Terahertz. Sabretooth were able to get a few more hits, which chewed up some of Terahertz's polycarbonate armour. However, when Sabretooth hit Terahertz's front wedge, which was not made out of polycarbonate, made it much harder stuff, the drum broke, leading to smoke, a non-functional drum, a pushing wall, a mostly dead Terahertz, Sabretooth being on the wrong end of a Terahertz axe blow, and a question. Do Sabretooth's team have another drum for Sabretooth? Answer, no. They only brought one drum to Series 9. So, Sabretooth went for the pit release, and for the very first time got the Rogue House Robot, and Shunt was the robot that got to go on a rampage and axe Terahertz. This is also the fight that is best known for certain yells from Terahertz's booth. Yep, that's right. Wait for a good hit. So, now with a drum to fix, Sabretooth had 3 points and next faced Aftershock. Yes, the drum did get fixed in time. Just. Aftershock hit Sabretooth early on and something came off before Aftershock chased Sabretooth around the arena, delivering a barrage of hits as it went. Sabretooth even got caught by the floor flipper and returned upside down, but got a moment of freedom as Aftershock also had to escape the floor flipper, but quickly returned to Sabretooth and showed no mercy. One of the hits dislodged the top panel, which was the aforementioned scoop. So Sabretooth went for the pit release and opened the pit, but that brought them no time, as a nudge from Sakilot and a few more hits from Aftershock later, Sabretooth were done. The good news for Sabretooth is that the batteries were okay. There was no lipo fire. The bad news was there was a whole lot else to fix. So, now with a whole robot to fix, Sabretooth was still on 3 points and had a fight against Grabber Jellyfish. And yes, Sabretooth did get resurrected in time. Jellyfish were able to push Sabretooth around early on, though they couldn't quite get a hold of Sabretooth. Sabretooth escaped and landed a hit on Jellyfish's side, but once again Jellyfish got a hold of Sabretooth and tried to send the drum spinner to Sakilot. But Sabretooth managed to jump over Jellyfish and escaped. Hurdles. Fun times. Sabretooth elected to keep away from Jellyfish, but it wasn't long before Jellyfish caught Sabretooth and gave Sabretooth a hug and spun it around. Just what Sabretooth needed after getting aftershocked, but Jellyfish weaponizes hugs. Sabretooth even got a nice tour of the arena. Well, bits of it. Sabretooth tried to escape but ended up stuck on a pole at the rear end of Jellyfish before Sakilot freed Sabretooth. Sabretooth made contact with Jellyfish one last time as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Jellyfish, though it was a split decision. It also turned out that Sabretooth's drum was wired backwards, basically, instead of going that way, which would have caused Sabretooth to actually land a hit on Jellyfish. It caused the robot hurdles because it was going so. But thanks to the tiebreaker rule, because Terahertz had also got 3 points because it beat Jellyfish, Sabretooth managed to get through to the heat final. It never won a fight going into Series 9, but there it was in the heat final. It was up against Aftershock again, though. Aftershock hit Sabretooth so hard it got sent most of the way to Sakilot, and Sabretooth ended up upside down to boot. Sabretooth just about got away, but escaped Sakilot, who picked Sabretooth up and roasted it. Aftershock got a hit in too. Once Sabretooth were dropped, Aftershock hit Sabretooth a few more times. Sakilot picked up and flung Sabretooth, and a few more hits from Aftershock later, Sabretooth were done. Now, because Sabretooth was in the heat final, it was in line for the wildcard. But, as it only had 3 points, and it was a robot that had Aftershock happen to it twice, and it spent some time in the robot equivalent of intensive care, Sabretooth stood no chance of getting it. It was clear even before the other heats had happened. And once the other heats had happened, all the other robots that made it to the heat final had got more points than Sabretooth, so Sabretooth did not get the wildcard. Sabretooth returned for Series 10 as an octagonal flat box, no sign of the scoop. Again with the unfriendly drum spinner, and again in Heat A. This time, learning from Series 9, they got spares of everything. There was essentially twin Sabretooths, it's just the one was in pieces ready to get attached onto Sabretooth as and when needed. Sabretooth first faced Bulldozer Bot Behemoth and Vertical Spinner Donald Thump. Sabretooth turned Behemoth Sabretooth Sabretooth did turn Behemoth over early on with a couple of hits before Donald Thump landed a couple of blows on Sabretooth. Sabretooth's next blow was on Donald Thump before Donald Thump dislodged a piece of Sabretooth's armour. Sabretooth attacked Donald Thump some more before focusing on Behemoth. Behemoth opened the pit and sent Sabretooth into the pit release before one last hit took out Behemoth and turned Sabretooth over. Basically, Behemoth and Sabretooth hit each other weapon to weapon at the same time. Sabretooth, however, whilst ordinarily it would have been able to move in that situation, and its wheels were moving, the piece of armour that Donald Thump dislodged meant that Sabretooth couldn't move because its wheels were off the ground. And as Donald Thump was also out for the count, the judges were called in. I mean, we're talking about treble knockout. They ruled in favour of Behemoth. I thought Sabretooth had it at the time, but given Behemoth's history with its bad luck, whilst I am not a fan of Behemoth, I am not going to begrudge them at getting some good luck for once. So, Sabretooth ended up in Robot Redemption, where it faced Grabber, Axebot, Apocalypse. Sabretooth went for Apocalypse early on, but Sabretooth took a flurry of axe blows from Apocalypse, and escaped a few more from Shunt. Sabretooth now had a non-working weapon, so it set off the Fog of War, and got tripped up by the floor flipper. So Sabretooth went for the ramming tactic, only to take more axe blows from Apocalypse, until Sabretooth rammed Apocalypse into a wall. It only needed one ram. And the red mist descended on a certain member of Sabretooth's team, Hemmercabe. But Sabretooth were through to the Heat semi-finals, where they faced Flipper and Series 8 champion Apollo. Sabretooth landed a blow on Apollo early on, and before Apollo sent Sabretooth flying. It does that to robots. Apollo then tried to send Sabretooth to Sakilolot, but Sabretooth escaped before Sakilolot could do anything. Sakilolot's always been at the top of Apollo's hit list. Apollo then chased Sabretooth around the arena and narrowly escaped when Apollo tried to flip it. Sabretooth escaped from a second attempted flip before a chase ensued, ending when Sabretooth sent Dead Metal on a rampage. Unfortunately, Sabretooth was the closest robot to Dead Metal and didn't escape uninjured. On release, Sabretooth got chased by Apollo again, Apollo getting some nudges in before Apollo flipped Sabretooth twice, once into Dead Metal, before Sabretooth went for the pit release. Soon afterwards, Apollo flipped Sabretooth out of the arena. So that put Sabretooth in the 3rd-4th place playoff with a chance of getting into the 10 Robot Rumble against the Multibot the Swarm. Sabretooth took a hit from the Swarm Spinner Blender before Sabretooth hit both Rammer Sky and Blender. As all the bots that make up the Swarm are tiny, both Sky and Blender were sent flying across the arena. Blender took the brunt of the attacks, and when Sabretooth got too close to the arena spikes came up and two of them made a bid for freedom and became arena debris. Fun. Sabretooth then chased Blender across the floor flipper, which flipped both, and the Swarm's flipper rubber duck when it followed. Sabretooth then went after whatever part of the Swarm was nearby, taking out Windmill Sky. Yeah, two parts of the Swarm were called Sky. And tangling with Shunt. Rubber Duck and Blender got stuck on the Flame Pit. For good measure, Sabretooth rammed Rammer Sky into a wall too. And time ran out on the fight. The judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Sabretooth, sending it through to the 10 Robot Rumble, where it faced Apollo, Eruption, Terahertz. A third flipper in Iron or 6, Hammerbot Thor, Grabber Big Nipper, Crush Attraction, Drum Spinner Concussion, and Angled Spinner Expulsion. Sabretooth was out of focus early on, and by the time it was on screen for a second, the pit was open. And then the second time Sabretooth was on screen was when Expulsion fell into the pit. Sabretooth finally got in focus properly when it attacked Concussion, Apollo, and Big Nipper in that order, before Iron Ore 6 set off the Fog of War. Once the fog cleared, Traction got shoved into the pit. Not by Sabretooth though, by the other robots. The Fog of War got set off again, and once the fog cleared, Apollo sent Sabretooth flying again. Sabretooth then went out of focus, briefly appearing when it drove into an empty corner. So it was out of the way when Iron Ore 6 sent Sikilot on a rampage. Then Iron Ore 6 set off the Fog of War again. When the fog cleared, Sabretooth was attacking Apollo and Iron Ore 6 was upside down. It actually had a broken flipper. And Sabretooth kept going after Apollo even when Big Nipper tried to stick its oar in. Until, that is, Sabretooth left Apollo alone and targeted Eruption, Terahertz, and Big Nipper in that order. Terahertz then landed an axe blow on Sabretooth before Sabretooth went out of focus again. Eruption then sent Sikilot on another rampage before ending up Sikilot's target. And when Sabretooth did get in focus again, it was just in time for Sabretooth to drive straight into the pit of oblivion. So that was Sabretooth out. Eruption ended up winning the 10 Robot Rumble in the end. Sabretooth was also in the first of the World Series episodes, where it was in a tag team match with Terahertz, of course, to take on Furry Irish Bot Dietor in vertical spinner mode, and Portuguese Thwackbot Rabbit M8. Terahertz and Dietor went out first, and Terahertz axed Dietor twice. That was enough to stop Dietor from moving, but Dietor got axed by Terahertz a few more times before Terahertz tagged Sabretooth. Rabbit M8 also joined the fray, while its teammate was toast. But Sabretooth only needed to hit it twice to take it out. Oh, and Dietor got put on the flame pit and caught fire. That's normal for Dietor. Incidentally, in a coincidence, Dietor was also in the same heat as Sabretooth when Sabretooth made its debut. But they did not fight. Outside of all, they mentioned it. Anyway, that was quick. I didn't have to do anything to the rules. Anyway, Sabretooth also had a one-on-one fight, and that was against Belgian Crusher Cobra. Cobra pushed Sabretooth early on before Sabretooth escaped and set off the Fog of War. That gave Sabretooth time to get away from Cobra, but Cobra caught up once the fog cleared and gave Sabretooth a shove. But Sabretooth got away. Cobra then sent Sikilot on a rampage, and Sabretooth didn't get out of Sikilot's way in time, so Sabretooth was the bot that got attacked. Once Sabretooth escaped, Cobra got in underneath Sabretooth and turned over. Now, while Sabretooth can run upside down, it's a lot less effective, see, doing the hurdles over jellyfish. So, after Cobra had rammed Sabretooth into two corners, Sabretooth tried to self-right via gyro dancing, which is the standard method of self-righting for drum spinners. Minotaur over on BattleBots makes it look easy. It worked, but Cobra rammed Sabretooth into some more walls and even more Sabretooth as a hat for a brief moment. Sabretooth then drove into a wall, After getting alarmingly close to Sir Killalot before Cobra shoved Sabretooth into another wall before prodding the pit release tire and trying to send Sabretooth to dead metal. Only thing is, Sabretooth got away before Cobra did, so Cobra was the bot that got attacked. Sabretooth landed a blow on Cobra, whilst the Belgian bot was stuck with dead metal. Cobra got free though and pushed Sabretooth into a wall, turning it over. Sabretooth's attempt at self-righting via gyro dancing sent it straight to Sir Killalot. Cobra tripped over the floor flipper but landed on its wheels, and Sabretooth somehow escaped. Well, he escaped Sir Killalot, but whilst Sabretooth was gyro dancing, Cobra sent Sabretooth straight back to Sir Killalot. Sabretooth escaped. Cobra prodded the pit release but ended up with dead metal and also escaped, hovering around Sabretooth as it continued to gyro dance before one nudge got to Sabretooth the right way up. Cobra then rammed Sabretooth into a wall and Sir Killalot as time ran out and the judges were called in. They ruled in favour of Cobra. Now, whilst Sabretooth has made the odd appearance in the live circuit, and Gabe Stroud has been in This Is Fighting Robots and King of Bots over in China with Tanshe, and on BattleBots in America with Duck and Beta, admittedly on their teams. They are not his robots, they're other people's robots. As there's still not been a Series 11, the World Series is where I must end. Sabretooth is a fun robot to watch, but it had some terrible luck. I mean, between somehow managing to lose to a robot made of MDF, and the weapons issues in Series 6, and self-righter breaking in Series 8, it had a rough go of things. But it came into its own in Series 9, and whilst it was lucky to make the Heat Final, so results ended up going its way, it got a clean win over Terahertz that showed what Sabretooth was capable of. They showed what they were capable of when they took out Tomahawk, though the win over Terahertz did come at a cost. Sabretooth could have just as easily been Series 9's answer to Razorblade or Splinter, robots best known for getting trashed by an unfriendly spinner. But it wasn't. It's like there's so many things that go into making Sabretooth what it is. But one thing, I get a strong underdog vibe from Sabretooth. Maybe not so much with the Series 10 version, but definitely with Series 9. It was going in as a robot that had been in existence in some way, shape or form for 15 years. One of the team members was born during the filming of Sabretooth's debut, and she was a teenager by the time Sabretooth finally won its first fight. It's got a lot of... It's like... It's a robot that you can root for, on the rooting for the underdog kind of thing. There's one real shame though. Sabretooth is named after an X-Man and villain. I never thought the robot named Wolverine. Also, it's yellow. It gets points for being yellow. Yellow is my favourite colour. So, who's next? Taiki? Please be kind. Flipper. That's spelled with an A. YouTube subtitles Flippa. Until next week, Allison244 out.